Yeah, for sure. Alrighty.
I feel like that lighting was no bueno.
Oh yeah, it overexposed there. By the way, we're already recording.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I can cut this up.
Okay, perfect.
But that was pretty fun though. I might keep it in.
Yeah. Oh, you only have one mic.
Yeah, one mic, unfortunately. So
Okay, this is good. So you can just hold it for me.
You don't want to hold it?
I feel like if I do it, I'll be like.
So I'll hold it for you then, okay?
Okay.
Welcome everybody. My name is Franco Aurelio. I'm here with Anna freaking Lulis, and
Hood.
what's up,
I always say what's popping in the hood. Every time somebody says that, I'm like, what's popping in the hood?
bro? What the? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess is it a New York thing?
No, it's just an Anna thing.
Just okay. Gotcha. I should have given. Wait, what is it?
Just an Anna thing.
All right, cool. Well, anyways, Anna and I were just talking for like a while now before the camera started rolling. A lot of stuff that maybe we'll slowly develop to publish later. But right now we want to talk about some stuff that maybe people are more ready for. And what I mean, talking about like issues like this, there's a lot of stuff in church teaching that. By the way, everybody, Anna is Catholic, so we have another Catholic guest on the show, as we usually do. I don't think
had a non-Catholic. Yeah, I was about to say, have you had somebody who's not Catholic on?
No.
Still a Catholic.
So still Catholic. I'm down though. I don't mind. It's just that a lot of my friends are Catholic.
Would you ever debate someone on Protestantism or like atheism?
I already did. Yeah. I was in a debate with Jaden Hurd but my buddy Pine Sap, he was helping me out debate Jaden. So, but it was mainly Pine Sap talking. That's why I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna leave the big brain stuff to him. I'm just gonna moderate it next time.
I feel like you could do it.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. We were just talking before this. I'm like, you're so knowledgeable. I could not speak for 2 seconds about the faith. You could 100% debate someone.
Really? 100%. Well, I mean, I've accumulated a good amount of knowledge.
With that attitude.
Okay. I can do what I can with private relations. I can do what I can with private relations. Yeah. But with public stuff, I don't know. I feel like I would have to get a little more read up. But either way, I mean, I know that as Catholics, as Christians in general, we're supposed to do our best to defend the faith. So, I mean, yeah, if you're Catholic and definitely just because you don't have a podcast or whatever, or some show that you're doing like something like I'm doing, don't use that as an excuse to be like, okay, yeah, I don't really have to learn about the faith and how to defend it, because either way, we are still called to defend the faith. And of course, that's how we've evangelized, by showing our own witness. So anyways, Anna, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Anna Lulis. Some people know me as Anna freaking Lulis. There's a whole story behind that. But I am, super Catholic. That's what people know me as. I work in the pro-life movement full time. I wasn't always Catholic, but I was always pro-life. So, that's all people know about me.
Well, I want to know more. So how did you, and I know we were talking about this before, but
we dived into our life story right before this, but that's why I'm like, I don't know how deep we want to get, but I was agnostic for 19 years of my life, but grew up, I would say technically I was a fallen Catholic, culturally Catholic, but I really was agnostic until I was about 19 years old. And then I converted to just mere Christianity, and ultimately I found the Catholic Church. So
let's go. We love it. Welcome home. Home.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's been a while now, but yeah.
Oh yeah, and we were talking about how it's really beautiful, because I didn't understand theologically that I was always Catholic. I was baptized, confirmed, all that jazz. But I think it's a really beautiful thing that when I became converted to Christianity in my brain, or when I was agnostic, I really wasn't. You can say you're Protestant, you can say you're agnostic, but the whole time I was Catholic, I was just a fallen Catholic. And so when I came back to the faith, I thought that was such a beautiful thing, where I was able to say, I was welcome home, people would say to me, but at the same time, it's I was home. I just decided to leave for a little bit, and now I'm back. So
you were just taking a break.
A little break, and now I'm back. So
yeah, that's cool. That's crazy, because me and Anna actually share a very similar story. Because I also was baptized Catholic when I was a baby, and pretty much never really taught the faith as much as I know it now. Definitely not as much as I know it now. And from there, I came into Christianity and then came into Catholicism. So I know you used to be Protestant, so tell us a little bit about that.
Ish. I didn't understand the differences between like Protestantism, Orthodoxy, and Catholicism. And so I just knew I was not Christian. So I was agnostic because science was my God, essentially. And when you grow up with that mindset, you think any type of religion, you have to be anti-religion in general, whether that be Christianity, Judaism, you name it. It just, in my opinion, and like living in a secularized society, people always say like, God doesn't exist, science doesn't prove the existence of God, and I kind of fell into that. But I also thought, science doesn't prove the existence of God, but it also doesn't, there's a possibility of it proving the existence of God as well. So I was agnostic for that purpose and that reason, but then I realized now that science actually does prove the existence of God, but that was a very, very slow process for me. So I would say I was agnostic for a while, but had a conversion to just mere Christianity and didn't understand that I could be Protestant or Catholic or whatever. I just thought Catholics were freaking weird. So I told myself I will not be Catholic, whatever denomination that is. I will not be a Catholic, but as I did more research into Christianity in general.
Church history. From an unbiased perspective, you can't not be Catholic. It's so evident. I think there's a quote, but I don't know who said this. It goes like, it says to dive into history is to cease to be Protestant. It's insane because really I think that's what when I was in RCIA, one of the guys that I was talking to, he also used to be Protestant, and we were talking about church history, and he was like, yeah, it's like kind of like that. He essentially was saying that it was what did it for him, like looking into the origins of the early church and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, the church fathers, they were all Catholic. Early Christians, they were Catholic, right? Like before the Bible was canonized, people were going to submission of the church. So it's huge. Like just looking into the history, that will open a lot of eyes. I mean, just looking into history in general will tell you a lot about how humanity works, how the world works, but it's very, very good to look into it for the church, for Christianity, to strengthen your Christianity and know that the issues that we're facing nowadays, there's a lot of similarities to issues that have been faced in the past as well. There's always some sort of root cause to it. And if you look into it, a lot of it has, I'm gonna stop myself there. But anyways, I'll let you.
No, I think that's a great point. And a lot of people I encountered who were Protestant would always say, I just want to be like the early church. And I agreed, technically we all as Christians should want to be like the early church. Yeah. But what you're doing isn't what the early church did. And once I started researching your church history, because I noticed every single Protestant church I went to never really dove into the specifics of what do the early church fathers really believe. I was even in a theology class and they were talking about Aquinas. I had no idea he was Catholic.
Yeah, Aquinas is
Yeah, and all of these different theologians were Catholic, but I didn't understand this. So here I am thinking nobody's Catholic. Catholics are the heretics. Catholics are the ones that are not leading souls astray and all that jazz. And I'm like, no, everybody, all these theologians that you guys talk about, they were Catholic. The early church fathers were Catholic. You want to talk about the Eucharist? Nobody talks about the Eucharist anymore unless you're a traditional Protestant, which is mainline Protestantism is basically Baptist, at least in American Protestantism is. Yeah. So it's when it comes to the Eucharist, which was the center of the church for the early church, it's where is that now? You don't have, the center of the church is whatever mega pastor you put on stage. It's seriously. Yeah, and that affects how people, if it's cool. So church sizes fluctuate based off of if you have a cool and hip pastor who's known on social media. The Catholic Church has always been about the Eucharist. Priests are if you think about priests nowadays, they try to almost not be cool. Because it's not about them. They're we're here to represent Christ. We're not here pulling up with I don't even know, Nike shoes. Not saying anything is wrong with Nike shoes.
H&M.
They're not showing up trying to be culturally cool or in the world's eyes, worldly, to be relatable. And I think there's a component to that's beautiful, where you try to relate to certain people and pull them into the church. But at the end of the day, you can't compromise on the truth. And a lot of mega pastors are so focused on being liked and gaining followers on Instagram that they compromise on the truth. Nobody talks about homosexual marriage anymore. Nobody talks about the life issue because it's too controversial. One, it's not controversial to talk about it. So during BLM, the amount of mega pastors who spoke out about racism, which we should do, everybody should be obviously like anti-racism, but they pick and choose the topics based off of whatever the culture deems fit or like socially acceptable and cool. So when Roe v. Wade got reversed, where were all these mega pastors? Nobody said a word. In fact, people were almost like insinuating that it was a bad thing. And so it's like, okay, you'll speak out about BLM and whatnot, but you won't talk about abortion. You won't talk about homosexual marriage. It's Pride Month. You want to talk about that?
Facts.
Want to talk about transgenderism? God made man and woman in his image, male and female. And you won't even talk about transgenderism? That's crazy to me. So it's like seeing the Catholic Church it's refreshing, to be honest, because I'm like, y'all do not change.
Oh, so this is what gets into the fashion real quick. So with the fashion, right? It's like, you were talking about the priests. I mean, not the modern pastors, Protestant pastors getting into, trying to dress hip or whatever, right? It's like Protestant pastors, Protestant pastors go to their church wearing modern fashion. Priests, Catholic pastors come to church wearing timeless fashion. And it's so true. It's so true. I thought about it. I was like, oh, this goes hard. This goes hard. But no, one thing I want to talk about with the Protestant pastors versus the Catholic pastors is that, like, I'm sure you guys have already been hearing my takes regarding why democracy is, there's a lot of flaws to it. It's like, are you really going to trust random people, like, your next door neighbor that doesn't even know how to run his own life, to be wise enough to know who to vote for that's going to run an entire country? Like, is that really wise? Like, should everybody be having a vote? It's like, I'm sure you guys already know, like, the moderate, like the, conservative standpoints with that. Like, there are a lot of conservatives that are like, democracy, it's like, it's amazing and it's one of the greatest marvels. It's like, yeah, guess what? It's a very new thing and it's not been working out. It's been working out pretty horribly. So when we talk about the pastors in the Protestant churches, I'm going to turn on the light real quick.
Yeah, okay.
Hold on. Protestant pastors, right? How did they become pastors? Non-Catholic pastors, how do they become pastors? They just amass a following. They just, if you can amass a good amount of people to follow you, then you're a pastor, right? It's a very democratic way.
We can be pastors.
We can be.
Identify as a pastor.
She could be a pastor too. If you know what I'm saying.
How crazy is that? Like, seriously, like, how crazy is that? Where like I can just grow on social media and then 2 seconds later be like, I'm a theologian, I'm a pastor, I'm an apostle. Some people say that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Now here's the thing.
So it's like, I'm like, why can't I say that? And and like, some people have accepted females as pastors, which is crazy.
With any denomination that's not Catholic, at least most of them in America, they elect pastors based on like who is more popular. And it's like, okay, yeah, if you're popular, you're leading a church, you have raised funds to guide a church, guide a flock, whatever, right? In Catholicism, you have to be properly ordained. You have to have a previous, like a bishop breathe on you. I don't know. I'm still learning. I still have to know the exact procedure. And which proper ordination is actually in Scripture. It literally says how, like, the apostles were ordinated and how the replacement for Judas was ordinated, right? It's literally there. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, go out and preach, and if you amass a lot of people that like you, okay, cool, you can lead a church now. Like, that's not how it worked. That is not how it worked. It's a very new democratic way of looking at it. And as we know, democracy, as this wise Indian or Middle Eastern man put it, democracy is a government ruled by the people, but the people are retarded. So it's like, why would you trust, we've seen so many instances throughout history where the majority chose the wrong decision. I mean, I choke so much. That's how bad it is. I mean, look at the story with Barnabas, right? Barnabas and Jesus, where the crowd had to choose either Jesus or a freaking criminal. And they chose Jesus to get crucified. The majority chose Jesus. And that's just like one of like the first ones that I can think of. There's so many other times when the majority has been wrong. I mean, if you look at how the elections have been going on, I mean, Yes, there's exceptions. I'm not saying that every single time the majority votes is going to be wrong. However, to think that we can arrive at a good decision based on what the majority think all the time, it's very, very foolish. Our church, the Catholic Church, does not operate in that way. Oh, but what about the College of Bishops that vote for the new Pope? Yeah, that's a very select few. Extremely select few, and they had it, and they didn't just be like, okay, yeah, now I have a voice. Like it was extremely carefully selected.
You need a society that's based on principles that derive from Christianity, because where does morality stem from? Morality stems from our understanding of who God is and how he wills the good for everyone, whether that be like culturally, us personally, relationships, you name it. Like he wills the good for people. Our understanding of morality, everyone's understanding of morality has to derive from God. Because if you don't have that, where does your morality stem from? Exactly. And that's why people who are atheists or agnostic, when I was agnostic, I was being logically inconsistent when I would say murder is wrong. Well, why? Because I just know instinctually it's wrong. Well, maybe because culture has decided fundamentally it's wrong. But in other areas, you could say like, you know, if murder was okay, then, and you normalize it like abortion has been normalized. But before abortion was normalized within the United States, it was almost like if you were to talk about abortion, people would freak out and be like, oh no, I would never do that. That's murder. Like that's killing an innocent human being. Why would anyone support that? Now look at us as a nation. We've completely normalized the slaughter of the most vulnerable within our society, slavery. A lot of people in America thought it was socially acceptable to own a human being, own a slave. Okay, but now as a society, we recognize that every human being has worth and value and nobody should be treated like a slave. But we've just dehumanized other people groups. So at the end of the day, you need a society, and a civil society operates understanding the reality of God and where morals in general stem from. Yeah. And everything has to be directed that way. So when people say like, take the separation of church and state, no, absolutely not. Like the separation of church and state was not, oh, just remove Christianity from our schools completely. It was like to not force any particular religion upon somebody. But at the end of the day, it's like Christianity, if we believe Christianity is true, we should be advocating for Christian principles. And if people don't accept, I mean, you can promote Christianity at the end of the day because we have free will. People can choose to not accept it. But the fact that if we want to be a good and moral society, we should be promoting Christian values because that ultimately will be for the good of not just ourselves, but for others. And ultimately, that's what we should be striving for. And I think us taking God out of the government, relativism seeping into the United States, because ultimately the United States was founded on Christian principles. Exactly. But people like to neglect that fact. But you really can't have a whole and moral society without God, bringing God back into the conversation, whether that be through legislation, policy, like you name it. Like you have to bring God back into the picture, or you talking about morality has no basis. Yeah. You cannot claim to have a moral high ground or to be, say somebody comes up to us and says like, I'm against slavery. Okay, but why? Where does that stem from? Okay, because it's a human being and we should value human life. Okay, well, are you against abortion? Because I 100% agree with you. And a lot of times people would say, no, nowadays it's culturally acceptable to dehumanize the most vulnerable people group, babies, who really don't have a voice for themselves, and it's totally culturally normal. Maybe in 50 years, we look back and realize the horrors of abortion, just like we realize the horrors of slavery. But at the end of the day, to eliminate suffering within our society, we have to, and suffering will always exist, but to try to have a more wholesome and whole society, we have to promote Christianity and ultimately Catholicism. Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly right. And like the reason, and I like the part where you talked about the willing the good of the other, right? Which is what love is. The reason I talk about, like why democracy is bad and like, how the church elects a new pope and all that stuff, right? It's like, I'm not saying this as if I'm like, oh yeah, no, screw people. I don't care about people's voices. It's like, I don't care what they think. I don't care if they want something. I don't care, whatever. It's like, that's not why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because there is a lot of evil that gets perpetuated because from letting people that don't know better have a say in how the government should run. If you have like for example, abortion, it dehumanizes children. It dehumanizes children in the womb, babies in the womb. It also largely dehumanizes women. It also largely degrades them. So does pornography. So does a bunch of other disgusting things like contraception. Yet a lot of women will vote for a candidate that supports these things. So it's like, okay, and as well as men, a lot of men will vote for things that support these things. That's why you really have to ask yourself, should really every single person have a say on these matters, on how a government should be run? Or should people that know better, like godly people, be having a say on how these things should be run? Like, I honestly don't think that you should be running for office if you're not a Christian. Like, that's some people might think that's wild, but yeah, no, I mean, right now, because of the way that the culture is right now, I would not exclude Protestants because there's so many Protestants in America. But at the very least, if you're not a Christian, you should not be running for office, or you shouldn't be allowed to. Because what is religion? It is a claim about reality. If your claim about reality isn't influencing how reality should function, like how people should act in reality, how people should obey the laws of reality, then you don't understand religion. Religion necessarily has to influence your politics, because if it doesn't, then you're just bad at your religion, and that's what Keith Nestor says, which I think is beautifully put. So your government, I'm not saying force convert people. I'm not saying that. The Catholic Church is against forced conversion. Yes, Catholics have done that in the past. However, that is not because of church teaching, but because of disobedience to church teaching. So you cannot use that to be like, oh yeah, the church condones forced conversions, because the church doesn't teach that. It actually teaches against that. And when I say church, when we talk about putting church in power of the state, we're talking about things that harm other people, right? Obviously, we're not going to send somebody to jail for not going to mass or going to confession like every week or like every month or every year. We're not talking about that, but we're talking about evil things that affect somebody else. If it affects an unborn child, if it affects a woman that thinks that OnlyFans is okay, if it affects somebody in a harmful way, we want that banned. We want pornography banned. We want contraception banned. These things harm people. Maybe not in a bloody way, but in an emotional way, in an abusive way regarding emotions. There's a lot of ways that there's a reason why. What emotional abuse, couldn't you, like harassment, all that stuff, that can like literally get you in prison, right? This isn't a foreign idea. This isn't a radical idea. It's just that the culture has become so radical that being normal is now seen as radical.
Being Catholic is seen as radical, which I think, because people can interpret like being normal as being secular, because I would say the fastest growing religion in the US right now is atheism. Sure. So being set apart is to be a Christian, and I think by being a Christian, you have to proclaim the truth. And I agree with you. You cannot talk about politics or like policy in any ways if you don't have a good understanding of who God is, because legislation is just morality legislated. So if you are not a Christian and you're running for office, that's a big flaming red flag right there, because where do you derive all your morals from? From what?
Exactly.
You're being logically inconsistent if you say, well, the natural law, the universe, ultimately everybody worships something, whether they want to admit it or not. When I was agnostic, I worshiped myself. Most people in the United States specifically worship themselves if they say they're an atheist or agnostic. And I also was very much into science. So science was ultimately my God. So it's either self-worship or the worship of science. And that is incredibly misleading. I think science can prove a lot of Christianity. Actually, it does. Science proves the existence of God. But for the longest time, I was lied to and thought that to be pro-science, you must be anti-religion. But it's almost the opposite. Because at the end of the day, it's like you're telling me we just appeared randomly from a big bang that happened with the chemicals randomly coming together, and now look at us, we're able to not just talk, but communicate with each other, build insane buildings, fly in air, like all these like crazy things that other animals cannot do and have not been able to do, but humans randomly figured that out. We're the one animal that figured that out, and we just appeared here, and we live for what? Like, why are we all here at the end of the day? And I think I really struggled with that question when I was agnostic, and which ultimately led me to Christianity because
Real quick, the father of the Big Bang Theory was literally a Catholic priest. So even if you want to be like, well, the science is there for the Big Bang Theory, guess what? A Catholic priest literally came up with that. So stop! Don't tell me how like. I just realized I'm looking at the camera rather than I just realized I'm looking at the laptop than the actual camera. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. A Catholic priest is the father of the Big Bang Theory. So you can, and the reason is this: like with the science is a tool used to find how reality works, find the truth of reality. If religion is going to be a claim on what reality is, then it must make sense that science has to point towards your religion if your religion is correct. And that's when you look into everything that I've been talking about. Why pornography is horrible for you. Why contraception has really bad effects on a marriage. Why sex before marriage also has really bad effects on a marriage and on life in general. Fornication, horrible. Homosexuality, transgenderism. A lot of these things that people think, oh no, you should just live and let live. It's like, there's a lot of things about reality that the church has already known about, but people think it's outdated. No, it's just how reality is. It's how it's been forever. And the church has known this forever, but because people want to be arrogant enough to think that, oh yeah, whatever is new must be true, or whatever is new must be good. It's like, that is not how it works.
No, I 100% agree with you. You touched on everything. It's like people can tell when things are distorted. Why could I not say that for a second? But and you see that with higher rates in divorce, depression, suicide, like you name it. And it's because we're living in an incredibly immoral culture, and it's becoming progressively more secularized. People are becoming relativists, and with that mindset, they think I can do whatever I want to do. They can do whatever they want to do as long as it doesn't affect me, which is a very libertarian standpoint, a standpoint I used to have, but is incredibly evil and immoral. Because at the end of the day, if you're a Christian, specifically a Catholic, you want to will the good for others. So naturally, you want to be promoting morality within our society, which is why we should be involved in politics, because policies are morality legislated. So if you don't have influence in that, then you're going to let society deteriorate? Like, no, we understand the good, the truth, which naturally will be the good and truth for others, and everyone will be happier if you live a certain way, which is why studies have come out saying like you should not live with your significant other before marriage, because there's a higher rate of divorce if you do so. So I think a lot of these studies have been coming out proving a Christian worldview and how that positively affects everybody's lives, and it shouldn't be something that we say, oh, you can like pick and choose if you want to do that. I think it should be promoted actively within our society, because to have a moral and good, just society, you want the good for others. So why not just promote that, whether that be through policy? More politicians should be speaking out about it. Celebrities, actually, it's interesting because a few celebrities have been speaking out about like birth control and whatnot, and how they've gotten off the pill and realized like I was attracted to totally different guys than I am now. And it's just like we should not be ingesting all of these chemicals, taking things that are just like foreign substance. And like, that's why transgenderism is awful. People are trying to take drugs to feel more masculine or more feminine because they think they were born in the wrong body. But then after they do that, they realize, oh, well, it didn't actually fix anything that was internal. Like, I feel no different. And so I think ultimately, to go back to your question, is that science proves the existence of God, but it also proves basic reality and why things operate the way they do, and why we should be promoting that naturally within America.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And on the libertarian topic, like, I know a lot of people think that it's like, okay, well, legislating morality, isn't that like a little bit too authoritarian and a little too whatever? It's like, if you see a woman that's getting raped, and I know this is an extreme example, but it works. If you see a woman getting raped, what are you gonna do? You're going to use your own power to stop that rapist. If you see somebody about to, rob someone, what are you going to do? You're going to use power to stop that person from robbing that other person. We use power to stop evil from affecting others. So it makes sense why we would want to legislate more things that can, why we would want to legislate more ways that we can stop evil from affecting others, like all the things that I've already mentioned: contraception, porn, abortion, etc. That's not a radical take. That's just that's just a mindset that you genuinely do care for your society. Again, there's a difference between saying, don't kill a child versus, okay, the evils of killing a child or the evils of watching porn versus the evils of not going to take in the Eucharist on Sunday, right, for your daily obligation, right? One affects you and only you. The other affects other people on earth, right? Which is why I like to make that distinction, right? We're not going to try to force you to go to Mass. We're not going to try to force you to get baptized, but we are going to make sure that we can put laws in place to make sure you don't hurt other people.
This also goes to bodily autonomy. So it's when people say it's my body, it's my choice. Actually, no, at the end of the day, it's not your choice. We don't advocate for self-harming like yourself or like promoting that for other people to do it. We shouldn't advocate for suicide. Some countries like Canada are out there saying euthanasia is great, but it's horrible. Yeah. So there is a limit to bodily autonomy. Like yes, we don't want other people to harm others, but at the end of the day, we don't want you to harm yourself either, which is why we should be involved in issues, whether that be with the LGBTQ plus community, like homosexual marriage, transgenderism, abortion, because at the end of the day, suicide, we should be speaking out against euthanasia, self-harming, all these different things where it's not, at the end of the day, your body, your choice. We will the good for others. Therefore, I want you to be loved. I want you to love yourself and love God and not destroy the body that God gave you. So at the end of the day, like, yes, we want to stop the evils within our society from affecting other people, but I also want to stop the evils and the harm that you may do to yourself.
That's true, yeah. That's true. I did forget about that. That's like, why we have, committing suicide as like, I don't even know if that's a punishable offense, like suicide. I think that you just get them help.
Well, I think what I'm talking about specifically is physician-assisted suicide, so euthanasia.
Oh, so yes.
So most people, unless they talk to somebody about suicidal thoughts, don't know somebody's suicidal until it's too late, unfortunately. So I would say, legalizing, permitting a physician-assisted suicide, euthanasia, is a grave evil because you're essentially having somebody come to you at that point. You're knowledgeable about this person's mental state and saying, oh, you want to kill yourself? Sure. Not only are you allowed to kill yourself, I'll help you kill yourself. Yeah. That is so incredibly evil, and people are trying to frame it in this way where it's called, there's areas where they're saying it's like death with dignity. There's no dignity in that. But truly, in Canada right now, they are promoting this. Like, there's social media influencers promoting euthanasia, saying this is more of a humane way to die, is essentially going to your doctor saying, I'm having suicidal thoughts. Some people struggle with severe illnesses and they suffer for quite some time. But at the end of the day, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. We are not God. We should not be able to pick and choose who lives and who dies. So even if you're struggling with some illness, which is an awful, awful thing, it doesn't mean you should just kill yourself, because you have so much more to life to give in life and to other people. And it's going to be harmful, not only to yourself, but people around you when you do pass. Your life has meaning, you have worth, you have value. And it's honestly sad that we're living in a culture of death where people are starting to say, your life means nothing. Go ahead and kill yourself. Yeah. Even if you're suffering, totally okay for you to be gone. When it's not, you have a lot to offer still. Whether you see that or not, it does not matter. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. We are not God, so we can't act like him.
It's so true. And I think that's one of the huge flaws with atheism is that, it kind of a lot of people want to go by even New Age spirituality, people have that. It's like, oh yeah, there's like, well, maybe not so much of them, but like more atheists that they like, oh yeah, there's no point to life. We're just a bunch of particles moving around and we're just, there's really no point to life. So like that mentality has a lot of destructive paths to it, because if there's no point to life, then that person will pursue whatever satisfies them. Because if there's no point to life, there's no consequences for any bad actions that you might have, then what's the point in not hurting other people? What's the point in not doing things that society deems as degenerate? Why not do things that the church deems as degenerate? Right? It's like, if there's no consequence after death, if there's no meaning to life, no purpose to it, then why not just do whatever the heck you want? I saw this really disturbing movie one time, and I'm not going to say what the name of it is because it was disgusting. But I think that this movie had this guy that was like, let's just say he literally was about to commit rape and murder. And this thing stuck with me. He said, this is what he said. It's like when one of his victims was saying, "Oh God, please help me," right? The guy was like, "There is no God." The moment a man abandons the belief of God, there is nothing he can't do. Which I think is like absolute. I think that movie might have been low-key based, but just like it was disgusting how like they were like showing a bunch of stuff. I'm like, yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. Which is why I still won't say the name. And if you know which movie I'm talking about, don't say it in the comments, please. I will delete your comment and block you because it's just that disturbing. I'm watching out for you, okay? There's like I've seen some disturbing movies in the past, and like that's also why I've been like so radicalized to be like, if it's a disturbing movie that I think can damage people, like ban it. I don't think that it should, the Catholic Church used to burn books. So I don't think book burning is a bad thing. Oh, what are you like? You like Nazis or whatever? It's like, no, I don't like Nazis. Nazism is pagan. However, just if a Nazi is like, yeah, like if a Nazi doesn't want to cheat on his wife, or does that mean that, and I don't want to cheat on my wife, does that mean that now like I'm aligning with Nazis? Like, yeah, some people might have things that you're similar with, right? Of course, I don't even want to say anything similar to Nazis because they're literally pagans. However, it's like saying, okay, yeah, they drank water and ate meat. Okay, now I'm a Nazi because I drink water and eat meat. It's like, okay, that's dumb. But burning books, right? It's like using power to protect others. If there is books that can brainwash people that read them into thinking that certain ideologies are good, then yeah, burn it. I mean, like, right now I'm reading this book called "Liberalism is a Sin" by Father Felix Sarda, and the story to this book, if I'm not mistaken, is that book actually. There was a liberal bishop that read that book, and he wrote a counter book to that book by Father Felix Sarda, and he sent that to the Vatican. And you know what the Vatican did? The Vatican said, we found no fault in Father Felix Sarda's book, and we want you to burn every copy of that counter book. Burning books is not a bad thing if it's for a good purpose. If it's to protect others, then it's not bad. There's no sin in burning pieces of paper that have words that can influence people to sin. So I don't see anything wrong with it. You want anything to that?
No, I 100% agree with all of that.
Cool. Yeah. Well, anyways, what other topics do you want? Any topics? Feminism,
transgenderism. I think it was really interesting that you kind of became conservative and Christian based off of gender ideology. So, but you said you kind of agreed with that, right? Before I came into Oh, okay, so before you came into the church.
Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh. No, I did not come into the church being like, yes, gender ideology.
Right.
No. You stopped there after you said.
You like kind of became conservative based off of gender ideology first, and that led you to like seek more truth, and then you became Christian, then you became Catholic.
Okay, so originally, yes, essentially, yes. So originally I was, I was like really far off because I was okay with transgenderism. I was okay with people, like doing all that stuff, whatever they wanted. I was okay with people having anal sex, practicing homosexuals, because there's a difference between people that are struggle with same-sex attraction but decide to live for God versus people that struggle with same-sex attraction but are like, I'm going to justify anal sex. So there's a huge difference. So I used to think all that was okay. Anal sex was okay. Transgenderism was okay. All that stuff, right? Lesbian sex was okay. It doesn't matter. If you want to do you, go ahead. But the one thing I wouldn't cave on was, yeah, there's just no way there's more than two genders. That was just something I would not cave on. I'm like, yeah, no, that's dumb. Yeah, so like, are you the same? Were you the same way?
No, I was. I think it's going to feminism. I think it's interesting that you see this rise in people accepting transgenderism when it's actually inherently anti-woman. But you don't see these feminists coming out saying, oh, this is promoting the patriarchy and whatnot, something that you're supposed to be against if you're a real feminist. These people literally think you can just be a woman by dressing up like throwing on some lipstick, curling, putting on a wig, curling your hair, throwing on certain clothes, and then automatically you're a woman. And I think that's the most degrading thing you can say about a woman. And you're stripping womanhood, like the uniqueness and beauty of femininity and womanhood, away from woman. And it's weird that you're not seeing this rise in the feminist movement to speak out against it. It not only goes against basic reality, basic biology, it's like incredibly offensive to women, or it should be at least. And the fact that more people aren't speaking up, J.K. Rowling spoke up about this, and she's a mega feminist. And right when she came out about it, everybody who was on her side started slamming her and saying like, you're transphobic, you're not really a true feminist, all that jazz. And I'm like, are you kidding me? J.K. Rowling has been outspoken about women's issues since day one. She's so progressive in that area, but she just recognized the biological fact that men are men and women are women, and you can't switch. If you're a Christian, you understand God designed man and woman in his image, male and female. You cannot switch. You're designed in a beautiful and unique way, and men and women are not equal.
Yeah, that's true.
We were designed to be different, and that's okay. There's beauty in that. We complement each other really well. There's a reason why God designed men and women the way he designed them. To be complementary, not to be against each other. The feminist movement, now modern feminism, has put men and women essentially against each other, which has contributed to, I think, like personally, like the divorce rate, so many different things, like that I won't get into, but I really do think it's odd that you don't see all these feminists who claim to be for women's rights, for women's issues, not speaking up about a very simple fact that men are men and women are women. Yeah. And you can't just dress up one day and automatically become a woman. Mm-hmm. You're being gaslit if you believe that stuff.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, when you talk about, men and women are not equal. That's completely correct. Now we have been created in God's image, but we have different features, we have different roles, we have equal dignity, but that does not mean we are literally equal, which I would say the feminist movement at its root claims to be. It's like, oh yeah, no, like any differences between men and women, they're just social constructs that came about from society, and really there's like, yeah, that's just how the cultural norms for like men and women came about, right? There's no like, if they were raised the same, it really would have been like we were practically the same. The only thing different is just our biology, right? And once you accept that claim, it doesn't sound too crazy to think that maybe if a man wants to become a woman, all he has to do is just get a little surgery. Because once you reject the fact that men and women have different brains, have different ways of thinking, different ways of acting, different roles in society, once you reject all of that and think we are practically the same, is when it trickles. It's a slippery slope. It's when it trickles down all the way into what we see nowadays. Now, and with the thing with the...
Can I say one thing about that? It's funny when people say men and women should be equal, because it's like we're not equal. We're only equal in dignity and worth. We're complementary. So we are together, we're able to do very beautiful things as a team. I think it's horrible when we pit one gender against another. However, at the end of the day, when people are like, oh, I want equality, I want to do everything like a man does, like, no, that's a lie. You do not. If World War III broke out tomorrow, and would it be moral for us to send only women on the front lines? No. Most people who even advocate for gender ideology and like equality among men and women would say, no, that's inhumane. Okay, but why? Because you recognize deep down there's a biological difference between women and men. And men were designed to be the protectors and providers. Women are caretakers. We're more emotional, we're more empathetic. There's unique gifts and beautiful components to both genders, but it would still at the end of the day be immoral to send a bunch of women to the front line of a war. Like most people would say at the end of the day, like, no, we should not be doing that. Okay, so why can't you apply that? Why can't you think critically about the situation, understand that there's clearly differences between men and women, and apply that to how you think about gender ideology, equality within our society, women's issues in regards to men? Like, we are not equal at the end of the day. We are only equal in dignity and worth.
Anna, I think you should go to war. I think it's time for you to pack the bags and get it.
In 2 seconds, we will get slaughtered, and most people recognize that. That's why I think it's crazy. It's like all these people claiming and shouting for equality. I'm like, okay, great. So if World War III broke out, you're telling me it's moral to send only women to the front lines? No.
Time to get in the gulag.
I know, right? Most people would be like, that's crazy. And I'm like, you're right. It is absolutely crazy because you recognize that there's a biological difference between men and women.
And even then, it's like people will try to get into the argument, well, there are non-combative roles in the military. And it's like, yeah, and we're still on the subject that men and women think different, act different, behave different. It's still the same point. Now, I want to talk about the part where you say, like, how are women not offended, like with feminists not offended at like transgenderism? It's like, because, you know, like we have blackface. There was blackface where people like changed their skin color, right? And it was like racist, and I was like super offensive because you're changing your skin color to like something that you're not, and you know, with the cultural context behind that. But then you have men literally trying to change their freaking sex to a totally different sex. It's like, that's way more offensive than blackface. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's like one thing is changing the pigment of your skin color, the other is changing your entire sex. That is insanely different. And you're not offended at that? That's like, that's just cultural conditioning at that point.
And you think you can experience exclusive feminine traits? Like, you think you can get pregnant? You think you can have a period? I'm sorry, but things that like women go through, you cannot experience. And that's not being transphobic. That's just talking about objective reality in biology. Like, you cannot get pregnant if you're a man. And you throwing on lipstick on clothing and saying all of a sudden now you're a female is incredibly offensive. For anyone to think otherwise has bought into this lie that transgenderism is female empowerment and inclusive. No, it's actually degrading. And any feminists out there, anybody who's for female empowerment should be the first one to speak up and say, no, this is wrong. Guys need to speak up too. This is not just it's a woman's issue, but it's more than that. Like, guys and girls need to speak up against this and say this is like crazy.
Yeah, it is definitely crazy. We need all the women back in the kitchen. We need all of them doing all the house.
I know. At the end of the day, it's like we are a team. Like, I don't like the idea of like men and women are against each other, because I think the feminist movement has turned into, intentional or not, it has done more harm than good for women.
By the way, I'm joking about the kitchen. Now, real quick, for some content on the kitchen stuff, I actually have like a little bit of a hot take on this with a lot of like traditional people. So yes, go to the kitchen if you're a woman. However, at the same time, if that's not your vocation to get married, then do what God's calling you to do. I know not all women are called to be dishwashers. I totally understand that. That's a joke. That's a joke.
I think that is the model for females everywhere.
Now, of course, again, with the dishwasher comment, I'm joking. It's all fun, tongue-in-cheek.
No, you're not joking. He's not.
Yeah, I am joking. All right, chill out. I'm not going to objectify women, okay? She's more sexist than I am. I am. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, but back to the point. I don't like this whole movement in the traditional sphere that like, okay, women, if you're a woman, you have to be a mother, like for like, because there are a lot of women that might not identify with that. There are a lot of women that might be like, well, I actually don't want to have kids. And instead of the right wingers telling them, okay, yeah, that's because God might be calling you to live a single celibate life and give your life to him, right? And do like missionary stuff or whatever. They instead be like, no, you're supposed to get married and have children, even if that's not what God's calling you for. It's like, I don't, and like either, and they don't really see another outlet besides either that or the feminist that tells them, go have fornication, go have casual sex with a bunch of men because you don't feel like you're getting called to marriage. Yeah. It's like, no, that's not what you're probably being called to, like the single consecrated life or like religious or nuns religious order.
Yeah, I would say you're called to holiness. At the end of the day, what is God telling you to pursue, discern? And ultimately, our goal should be heaven. So what is the path God laid out for you to be the most successful in that? Yeah. So if you're pursuing holiness, that could be with religious life, that could be married, with a family, you name it. I think at the end of the day, if that's your goal, if that's your purpose.
Yeah.
And exactly. You shouldn't force a vocation on anybody.
Exactly.
So I do think traditionalists can sometimes do that. But I don't know. I also think like you have the opposite effect where people are so progressive and modern, they're modernists, and they'll say like, oh, don't get married at all. Just be a fornicator. And it's just like, no, we shouldn't be doing degenerate stuff like that either. So it's like there is a balance for sure, and just recognizing whatever is the path that will lead me to holiness is the path I need to be on.
Exactly. Anna, this has been great having you on. Such a great discussion. We were tiptoeing on a few things.
I know we were. I feel like before this we were like dropping hot takes left and right, and it was like so funny because we were like, oh, we should actually turn this on now to maybe record all the things we were saying. But yeah, no, I feel like we like talked about a lot.
Yeah,
but
we tiptoed on it. We kind of like delved a little bit. I mean, I think a lot of people will think that a lot of what we said is extremely like hot already.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if they're hot takes or just like Catholic takes.
Yeah. Because that's what we were talking about before, how like it's not, the culture might think it's hot takes, but it's really just what Catholicism's stance and correct view on reality's controversial aspects, essentially.
Right. No, I 100% agree. Like just being against abortion, just respecting human life, the dignity of human life in general, I think is a big thing within Catholicism. And so that applies to all these different moral and social issues that we're facing within our society today. So I would say they're Catholic takes, not super hot, maybe.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
In the Catholic world, they're not hot. Yeah. Maybe in like America, the secularized America we live in, it's hot. But
there's a lot of, I've seen a lot of Catholics that are still libertarians though. So
are they Catholic?
They're Catholic. They're Catholic, but they might be in heresy. They might.
Well, you could say that. Like, look at Joe Biden with abortion. It's like he claims to be this devout Catholic. Same with Nancy Pelosi, and I'm like, you are advocating for abortion. You're advocating for an act that dismembers or poisons a human being to death, an innocent human being to death. Don't tell me you're a devout Catholic. Maybe you're a Catholic in name only, but you're definitely fallen, and you need to repent, or you're gonna not end up in heaven. Exactly. And that's the cool thing we're able to say about being Catholic is that we understand that there are certain beliefs we have to hold because it does affect your salvation. Like faith without works is dead. So you need to live out your faith well. You need to hold certain beliefs, because if you say you're Catholic but promote slavery, you're hurting the dignity of the human being. If you say you're Catholic and you're pro-abortion, you're advocating for the slaughter of human beings. It's like, no, I'm sorry. Something needs to change. You can say you're Catholic, but you're 100% a fallen Catholic. You're not a devout Catholic. So there are people who say it, but it's like, are you really?
I'm Catholic, but I believe in small government. All right, shut up, libertarian.
Oh, yeah, no way.
Shut up, lib.
I feel like libertarianism is almost worse than liberalism.
Really?
That is a hot take.
I think they're just both libs.
The reason why is because liberals actually stand for something. Libertarians don't stand for anything. They're like, do whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't affect me. Liberals are actually the ones like, oh no, I believe this and I want you to believe this too. I respect that more than I respect a libertarian.
Really?
Libertarian.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, I think I have less patience with libertarians than I do with liberals. Like I can have like a liberal screaming at my face about how they want to kill their children, but for some reason I have more patience with those people than people that are like, well, I'm personally not for it, but if other people want to do it, I mean, like it's okay. I'm not gonna force that upon them or whatever. I don't know.
At least they stand for something. Yeah. Like imagine if somebody's like, oh, if they just want to like kill themselves, go for it. At least liberals will be like honest with you, and B, like, say they actually stand for something, even if it's something that's incredibly immoral. Yeah. At least I respect you a lot more if you can say you stand by something versus saying like, oh, they can do whatever they want to do. I don't really like hold certain.
And that's on a low marker.
Yeah, I mean, like, but like honestly, if you take that logic to its final conclusion, it's like, okay, so like that person can just murder somebody else. That person can just like take their life, and you think that's totally okay. Yeah. Where it's like you just stand for nothing. Versus liberals, actually, even though I strongly disagree, like liberalism is evil. But
it is.
It's like when somebody is a liberal, I at least respect them a little more than libertarian, because I'm like, well, you like stand for something, which is a lot more, I don't know. I just have a lot more respect for people like that.
Really? I'll be polite to them, but I don't know if I would say respect.
I respect that they stand for something. Even if it's wrong, it's like at least you're able to say to people, this is what I believe and you should believe it too. That's why with transgenderism, they're so big about forcing their beliefs on everyone. It's like, I wish conservatives did that because they actually believe what they say and like stand by. So like homosexual marriage, they not only believe it, they want you to accept it. With transgenderism, they believe that and forcing you to accept it because they believe that's good within our society. Yeah. As conservatives, we should be doing the same exact thing, but we're cowards, the majority of us, and we don't do that, which is why I respect them. Because the way they are promoting certain social issues is how we should be promoting every single social issue.
Yeah, like a lot of people will say, oh, you're being like a leftist. It's like, no, the leftists have it right when they are having a backbone on what they believe in, because they actually believe what they are saying, even if it's wrong. Yeah. The average conservative has become so freaking stripped from confidence that they are not, they've adopted such a libertarian worldview. They've adopted such a, well, I mean, I'm not for it, but like if you're for it, that's okay. It's like, okay, yeah, what about slavery? If other people were wanted slavery, but you weren't for slavery, would you be saying the same thing? No, you would be claiming, no, slavery is bad. Nobody should be cool with it. But instead, when you hear a bunch of conservatives talk about abortion, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them that I've seen, is that they're like, oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm not for abortion, but like, it's okay if you're for abortion. That's like, okay, that's really dumb.
Certain cases. So they're like, oh, I'm against abortion except for cases of rape and incest. I'm like, I'm sorry, what if somebody said that about any other social issue? Oh, I'm against sex trafficking, except for instances like X, Y, and Z, or like slavery, except for instances of X, Y, or Z. Like, no, if something is immoral and fundamentally wrong, it should be wrong all the time. Yes. So even in cases of rape or incest, because it ends with abortion, if it ends an innocent human life, it does not matter circumstances surrounding someone's place of conception. Yeah. It's degrading to actually say otherwise, to say, oh, that person's a rapist baby, or that person was conceived in rape, therefore their life is less valuable, even though they had no control over that. Yeah. Why should anybody fall victim to the crimes of their father? Nobody should be dehumanized because of that. We must recognize that evil acts do not justify other evil acts. So we can condemn rape, we can condemn incest and say those were evil and horrendous things. Yeah. But that does not justify another equally just as dehumanizing an evil act. So I think you can say that with all these different social issues, with slavery, sex trafficking, pornography, abortion, you name it. Like, you have to apply the same logic or it just doesn't make sense.
With rape and incest, right, it's like rape is horrible. Yeah. Incest is horrible. I feel so bad for the victim. That's really, really horrible. However, killing the baby that's already been reproduced is not going to undo that rape. It's not going to undo the incest that has already happened. The life is already created. So to try to justify evil by committing, to try to cope for an evil that has already, to cope for an evil by committing another evil does not make sense. It's just evil. The baby has already been reproduced. It's not as if we're trying to attack your reproductive rights. That's not a reproductive right because the baby has already been reproduced. The reproduction has already occurred. We're talking about, like Matt Walsh says, the baby's already been reproduced. This is a parenting issue. Are you going to kill your child or are you going to take care of your child? That's what the question is right now. How they were conceived is like, there are people that have been conceived via rape, via teen pregnancies, via incest.
In poverty, like a lot of people say, well, it goes back to whether or not the child is wanted or not, which stems to eugenics, which stems to whoever we believe is like superior in society, whether that be through race, religion, you name it, should be the ones that reproduce, should be the ones that actually like are able to exist in the world. And I think that is incredibly degrading and dehumanizing. And we're allowing language like unwanted babies to circulate without thinking twice. There's no such thing as an unwanted human being, period. Whether that be a baby, adult, whatever. Like every single human being is wanted, and they're all designed and created in the image of God. So it's to say that nobody's wanted is to say like they're not valuable, and only the ones who are wanted are worthy of life. And that's just not true. People who are in the foster care system are worthy of life. People who are in poverty right now should be able to have kids, and successfully so. Like there should be programs that are set up to help people in impoverished communities, but we should not be dictating who lives and who dies based on socioeconomic statuses, like all these different circumstances. That has nothing to do with the value of human life. Yeah. And it goes back to like rape, incest, all these different things. It's like someone's place of conception should never define their worth. So who are you to say that that person's life is less valuable because of how they were conceived? And they had no control over that. Go after the rapist. Go after the people who actually dehumanize. And the reason we're like against things like rape is because it violates someone else's body. And it's incredibly humane. It's evil. And it should be something we like everybody should be behind and saying like, this is an evil, horrendous act. And people who commit those acts should be punished harshly. Exactly. But you should never go after a child for the acts of their father or any of their parent. Like they're not responsible for that. And so we're against rape because it violates someone else's body. We should be against abortion because it also violates someone else's body. And people like to say my body, my choice, and neglect the fact that during an abortion, 2 bodies are involved. Because if only one body was involved, a mom would be dead. Yeah. But it's not. A mom walks out without a baby because somebody died in the process. So somebody's body is being violated, and that's why we should be against all these other acts like rape, because it also equally violates someone else's body, because it's equally just as evil.
Exactly. Also, I mean, isn't it counted as double homicide if you kill a pregnant woman? So, it kind of checks out there as well. And by the way, if you are a victim, like if you were conceived via rape or incest or whatever, and you have a bunch of pro-aborts telling pro-aborts that's what they are. They say they're pro-choice, but they're pro-aborts. They support abortion, at least even if they don't support it for themselves, they support it for other people. So they still support abortion to an extent. If any pro-aborts are telling you that you're not wanted, and that you people are not wanted or whatever, guess what? I want you. And so does
but like actually, like there's no such thing as being not wanted, and I think that goes into this culture of death. It's an incredibly depressing society that we live in, where people are essentially saying like, are okay with saying this person is not wanted, not worthy of life. Your life means nothing. So you see suicide rates through the roof. You see countries like Canada legalizing euthanasia, legalizing doctors helping people kill themselves because they think their life means absolutely nothing. I think it's very harmful language. You want to talk about hate language, which the left loves to use. Let's talk about dehumanizing people by using words like unwanted baby, unwanted human beings. It's like, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't exist. Every single person is valuable. I don't care what you look like, where you come from, if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're gonna end up in the foster care system, if you were conceived in an awful place, that does not define you. That does not take away your humanity in the slightest. And anybody who says otherwise, honestly, it's evil, it's disgusting, and we need to start using words like that. Because I think people are like throwing the rape incest argument out there, throwing like, what if they grew up in the foster care system? I know people who grew up in the foster care system. Like, how dare you? That is so degrading to certain people. What if they end up being poor? Okay, so should only rich people reproduce? That's eugenics for you. Yeah. People used to think that about race. Only white people can have kids. Black people shouldn't be able to have kids. I'm sorry, what? Yeah. Like that logic is so incredibly evil, and we're applying it to all these different circumstances.
That reminds me. Also with the thing of like, no person is born unwanted. Yeah, like God before God formed you in the womb, He knew you. And also, on the subject of the racism when it comes to abortion, there's conservatives right now. I've heard this argument that it's like, oh, why you Catholics are like, you sure you still want to have everybody defend abortion go against abortion for everyone? And it's like they're trying to show black crime statistics and stuff like that. It's like, oh, you sure you want them reproducing? It's like, dude, are you freaking insane?
Yeah.
It's like they are in it. They are still lives.
It's not a political issue. It's a life issue. It's a human rights issue.
Because the thing is, the leftists can't understand that even if, because of course black people by block vote for Democrat, right? For people that will vote for abortion. However, they can't understand that conservatives, at least Catholics, they will still want people to be born because we understand that we care about life, no matter what, no matter if that life happens to go against us in the future. No, if it might hurt us politically, or it doesn't matter if it'll hurt us politically, we still care because it is a life. However, the leftists, because they care only, a lot of them at least, only care about making sure that they can advance their means for the ends. That is why they're cool with some secular conservatives are cool with literally aborting black children, because they think that, oh yeah, well, it's just going to hurt us politically. It's like, no, that's satanic. That's literally paganism.
It's evil. It's disgusting. So if anybody says that, repent, honestly. That is horrible for anybody to say. But I think that goes back to showing that this isn't a political issue for us, because we recognize the value of human life. We want everybody to have equal access to life, to the right to life, because it's a human right. It's not a political issue. It shouldn't be a political issue. This should be a bipartisan issue. I think it's interesting, the political wave that started with the life movement actually was heavily dominated by liberals for the longest time. And then it became a political issue because during a presidential campaign, somebody claimed, I believe it was Nixon, claimed the issue, and kind of once any political figure kind of does that, it naturally becomes a polarized political issue, and people can't really discuss it from a bipartisan viewpoint. But people then just always thought it was a conservative issue. And it honestly is right now, and liberals completely have rejected it, generally speaking. There are some pro-life Democrats, but they're very far in between. It's super rare to be a pro-life Democrat right now, because the party essentially shames them and they've claimed the abortion title, to be pro-abortion. And it doesn't really shock me, because the Democratic Party actually was very pro, they started the KKK. They were very pro-slavery back in the day. So that doesn't shock me. However, it's sad to see that this is an issue people view with a political lens, and they aren't able to set political differences aside and say, at the end of the day, it's a human being, and every single human being has the right to life, even if they ultimately end up coming into this world, disagreeing with me, voting a way I don't necessarily like. At the end of the day, okay, who freaking cares? It would be very convenient for us to say, yeah, do whatever you want to do with your kids. But because we are Catholic, we will the good for us, but also the good of others. And it wouldn't be good for us to say, just kill your kid, because it would be beneficial for us. That is narcissistic. It's something that everybody should reject. But it just also shows that most conservatives I know don't advocate for that. And it just shows that it's because we're not in this issue for the politics. We're in this issue because of the morals that derive from our understanding of morality and value of human life. Conservatives right now, I'm a conservative because I'm a Catholic. And I want to say, hands down, the conservative movement is the movement for life, for recognizing the value, the dignity of human life, which is why we speak out about issues like abortion, euthanasia, transgenderism, LGBTQ stuff, whatever it entails. We speak out about these things because we actually care about human beings and how certain acts will naturally affect them, the overall good for themselves and others.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was well put. Thank you, Anna. We're gonna be closing out now, so I hope you guys enjoyed this wonderful episode. We've been going on for a while now, so I'm definitely gonna want to do another one of these episodes with you, because we haven't even talked about free speech yet, and I think that would be see, look at her face. I know.
And I feel like I literally said repent 3 times on camera. I'm if you believe this, you need to repent.
It's so true.
But it's true. I think, have you seen Matt Walsh, like his recent episode, he was talking about bringing like language back. Like Catholics need to start using certain language. That's like, if you're a cheater and you're married, like don't say like this person's a cheater, say they're an adulterer. Like if they are sleeping with people who are not their husband and wife, like call them a fornicator, call them to repentance. Like we need to bring back these words that have kind of been lost within our society, especially within the Christian community. We're trying to play it soft, but I almost think that's like the worst thing to do. You can be graceful and loving with truth. And I think we need to use strong words to have people understand the gravity of certain acts that they're engaging in. So I'm totally for like calling people out and saying how it really is, because I think people respect you at the end of the day. Like if you're gonna be real with me. So
very true. All right, we gotta close it out because the camera's dying.
On and on. Oh my gosh. Okay, free speech.
This is good. I love this. We can go on forever. All right, well, we'll save it for next time. I don't know when we'll be collabing again. I'm trying to have some other things scheduled. However, we will get Anna back on soon. But this was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Anna, for coming on. All her social media stuff, her links are down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for coming in, and have a good one. Stay holy. Bye-bye.